Hey, and welcome back. It's been a little while since we've done a threezero Marvel review, so we're going to have a threezero sponsored review today, taking a look at the latest in their Marvel line. They've had a lot of Iron Man in there, and they threw in an Iron Patriot, but now we got War Machine Mark II as coming out very soon. We saw also announcements that they're expanding the line beyond just the armor suits. So we're going to have Black Panther, which I know he's kind of technically wearing a suit of armor. But I meant besides Iron Man or War Machine, the line is expanding. So we have Black Panther, and then we have Spider-Man, Iron Spider. Again, a suit of armor, but good to see other characters in the line besides just War Machine and Iron Man. But let's take a look at War Machine here. Checking out the box, it's very similar to the other styles of the Marvel line, where it's Infinity Saga, so you have that space, that stellar, that constellations background sort of going on, and you have the logo of the film that this corresponds to. So of course this is Age of Ultron. So this is essentially in the lower Mark II, is just a repaint of the Iron Patriot. So we'll take a look at the Iron Patriot along with him, but it should be a very similar style because all it was is the same suit, still Mark II, it was just a different paint scheme on it in the film. So the Iron Patriot from Iron Man 3 carried over into Age of Ultron, just with the traditional, more comic-looking paint scheme. So, I mean, the boxes, I mean, they're all kind of the same. They have that little, metallic look on the edge with the threezero symbol. And they all open still to give you that window box apparent look here with some of the call out features of the character on this side and then the character in the window here. Still with the Velcro tabs. I love magnetic, not a big fan of the Velcro tabs, but this has been consistent with all the figures in the line. The only one I saw with magnets was the very large Hulkbuster Iron Man that came out, which is pretty awesome. Worth checking that one out if you guys haven't seen it before. That one has magnetic clasps on it instead of the Velcro, and it has much more of a premium feel to it. I mean, it's a lot more money, so it should feel a lot more premium. But this is essentially the box and the design artwork. These are fun to display like this because they have the character call out on the side with whatever armor it is, and then the front, of course, they have that logo. So you can see they display really nicely. I've kept all the boxes because I like how they look. But it's really about what's inside the box that counts, so why don't we crack this guy open and check it out. These all open the same way, just a single piece of tape on the top. Now, of course, I always have an issue getting some of these open sometimes without tearing the cardboard, so I like to just slip a pen under the top and push it against the back wall there just to pop this without tearing this tab off if I want to reuse the box. So they just slide out in the two-tier sort of plastic here. And of course, you always have the warranty card, warranty sheet for threezero, and the instruction booklet. These are a lot better than the first generation of the suits, which were like 10 pages long. So they've kind of consolidated this a lot just to give you the call outs, basically identify the parts on here. We'll see what they call them. But you got your character here, and he's always going to be encased in some kind of form-fitting plastic, so these parts don't jiggle around inside the case. So if you want to display it like that, you're good. It kind of has you covered. So each cutout in the plastic is form-fitted to each individual component. So we have our titular character here, our War Machine Mark II, and he's just going to be inside a little extra protective baggie. Let's give you a close-up here so you can see his great paint scheme. So this is going to have 48 points of articulation on this guy. It's going to be hard to find them all, but I'll try. You're going to have this mixture of PVC plastic and this die cast, which is great. And that's sort of like the call out of the series and why these stand above other figures and other lines is that great mixture of the die cast and the plastic, giving it a real premium feel, giving it a little weight to it. So it kind of looks like we took some PIM particles and shrunk down the actual suits of armor. So they have this really great look to them because of that. So the other great feature about these guys is the light up feature. So the head, it's a little more tricky to get to. You just got to slide this plate off here. Whoop, there we go. And there we go. So you just slide the plate off and then you push the button and you can turn the eyes on, and then you just slide the plate back into position. And it snaps in there. And the chest is a really easy mechanism. They've improved the engineering on this since the early versions of it, but you just push. So that one is a lot easier. To get the batteries in, it's not that tricky. He actually just separates at the waist here, and there's a little screw to put the batteries in. There are AG1 batteries, or I believe that is a 364, 365 in the Energizer series set. So you could get like a 5-pack of those for $6 or $7 on Amazon, and you only need 4. You need 2 for the head, and the battery is just where I showed you. You take the cap off, there's a screw there, and then you need 2 for the chest. So once those are in, they're good. And he has this great glowing function in the eyes. He's got it in the chest as well. So it looks really great on him. So that's kind of the standout also with all these figures. They all have that light up component to them. It just makes them a little bit more screen-like and just elevates the coolness factor. So you guys always like knowing how tall these are. I have a ruler here so I could check. I think they should be coming in at about 7 inches, so just a little taller than the Marvel line. So we have he comes in just under 7 inches. I think it said 6.94 in the literature. So they kind of match into the Marvel Legends line if you wanted to substitute these guys in. I think they're more appropriately scaled for the Diamond Select line, which comes in at about 7 inches, I think, for the standard figures, a little taller for the larger characters. So they could mix in with the other lines, but they just look a lot better. We've shown you a comparison. If you want to go back and look at our Iron Man Mark 50 video, you could see him compared with his Marvel Legends counterpoint, and there's just no contest. It's just much better deco, much better design. That amazing zinc or die-cast alloy really shows there with those. So obviously a higher price point. I mean, those are $20-$30 for the Marvel Legends, and these come in around $80. So you're getting what you pay for, though. Much more articulation, much better design. So let's take a look at some of that articulation. We got those wrists, and these hands come off, and there's several hands. We have what's called relaxed hands, shooting hands with the shooting effect, flying hands, fists, which he's coming default with, and he has a saluting hand like we saw with Iron Patriot. So of course we did that that salute we showed you guys before. So we'll go through them all here, and we'll show you guys what they all look like. But I believe these are the these would be an example of the shooting hands with blast effect, because the only difference here is they have this open sort of chamber here for you to put the blast effect in. So we have multiple versions of those, and then the flying hands are kind of not as arched, that they're more flat, so we should be able to see those as well. So these would be like the flying hands. They're a little bit more flat, and then we're going to have, obviously, our saluting hand is just going to be a salute hand in there. And then the non-shooting effect hands are just going to have a silver inset on them. So a lot of versatility here. And then, of course, they have another variant of that, or they're bent a little bit more. So a lot of versatility there in the hand displays. And then in addition to that, you're going to have some wrist rockets. And the wrist rockets, basically, there's a panel that is on the arms here. And if you could find the side of it, you just kind of stick your nail in there and pull it off. It comes off pretty easy, and then you get the corresponding side, and there's a little like peg in there that you stick on the arm, and then it just clips in there. So then you have a wrist rocket. So you could turn his arm here and have the look that he is pointing a wrist rocket at you. And I'll give you some close-ups of the wrist rockets. But that is the other accessory you got there. And then, of course, he has his shoulder-mounted cannon. This is pretty cool. There's a slot on the back here. You just kind of put this in. There's only really one way, I think, to put this in, so you can't mess it up. It's a half moon on the insert, so then it just kind of comes out this way, and it just turns. Well, I guess you can't mess it up except if you're me. So then it just kind of turns out this way, and yeah, and then you can point it over the shoulder. So that is not supposed to be tricky, but I am struggling with it for some reason. I'll get that fixed in a second. But yeah, here we go. It pivots up. That's what I was missing, the pivot. So it pivots up as well. And you could have a variety of angles on this one to get this to work as well, but it pivots over the shoulder, and it points out at the bad guys if you get it to stay there. So you have that as well, and then it recedes back onto his shoulder and just kind of hides there. So we have that shoulder cannon, and we have the wrist rockets. The only other accessories are going to be the sort of the blast effects and the flame effects. So taking a look at those, the blast effects are a little bit shorter than the flying effects. So and then I think they double. So you have these blast effects here that you can put in the hands, and then you have these longer ones that are meant for the boots, or then you can put all 4 of them in and make it look like he's flying, repulsing out of his hands and his feet. And then we have the base, which is just a 2-part base. It always has the character's name on it, and then this sits in here and retracts up. Now this is just useful if you're trying to get some floating poses. If you have a panel in the back of him, it's usually around the waist, right here. It's at the hip, and this just kind of pulls out and allows you to stick the tab in there to hold them in place. And then you could reseal it like that so you don't see it. So kind of a seamless look to it. It's really nice. But let's focus on the articulation here. I'm just going to take the shoulder cannon off for a second. There we go. So we have those wrists. We have them bending at the elbow. We have a double elbow. A lot of bend there. We have individually articulating armor pads, and this just lets you get a little bit more agency out of that shoulder. So then we have a sort of, I guess, rotator cuff articulation there in addition to the ball jointed shoulder. And we're going to have those on both sides. When we have that head that not only bends and is on a ball, but the entire neck can move as well. So we have 2 points in the head and the neck there. Then we come to the chest piece, and we have a 2-piece articulation or 3-piece articulation in the abs here. So he can get a nice bend. And it's kind of seamless how those armor plates line up, so you don't see anything in between. Oh, look at that, an extra point there, 4 points of articulation in the abs there. And then we come down to the hips, and they have this nice articulation on the hips, and this just allows you to move the leg out without making the armor break off, which is great. So it just gives you a little bit more range sideways. So you get a lot of range in the legs on this, and we've shown you guys how you could do superhero poses where they're hitting the ground with that one hand on the one knee. So that allows you to do that. And then they have this great articulation on the upper thigh, so you could actually bend the leg into the chest without hitting the armor. So it's not easy to bend with armor, but they allow you to do that. And that panel came off, and this happens from time to time, but these snap back on really easy. Sort of if you go too far, you're going to knock a panel off, but what I like about it is you're not breaking anything. They go right back into place, and then they get right back on there, and there's no harm, no foul. So we have those articulation pieces there. Let's see, there's going to be double knees, and you have that great knee you see there, that plate that covers it. And then we have articulation in the foot, and we have a piece of armor covering the top of the toes there. Same with the back, so we have additional articulation there as well. And then we have that ball jointed foot. And let's see if we have anything on the calves. Nope, this one does not. But that's it, I think. And there's probably a bunch of parts I'm missing in there. It kind of goes over all this in the instructions, all the dozens of articulation points, because there's just more than you're going to see. And I love about that because I'm always finding something new on this guy or on any of the characters when I'm looking through them. But yeah, there's just a ton of articulation on these guys, and that's what helps them stand out as well. I mean, you can get them to a lot of dynamic poses. We'll go through a couple here in our montage of poses I like to show off, but that's essentially the features of Iron Man, or I'm sorry, not Iron Man, War Machine. I do see an additional plate here on the back of his leg, but I'm not seeing how to get it to move, but I believe that there is a way to make it move. So there's just all that. It's fun to discover that additional hidden articulation, but he looks really great, I want to say. One of the nicer paint jobs I've seen in the line for these characters. So I'll also show you him next to Iron Patriot. He should be very similar because, like I said, it's just a repaint in the MCU as well, not just the character. There's no vents or anything or in the back or drag vents to sort of help him slow down like Iron Man has. So his character design is a little bit more unique. So that is our look at not Iron Patriot, but War Machine Mark II. So why don't we do a montage and show you some of the poses and some of the accessories on this guy. All right, going to start this montage with my kitted out look. And this is going to be War Machine with his dual laser blasters on his wrists here, and his shoulder cannon as well, that I got functioning properly this time. There's two joints you have to connect it into, so if it pops out, you got to make sure both are in. I only had one in, so it wasn't sticking. So now it is definitely where it needs to be. And it has that great retractable fold-up feature on it as well. And you can position it up and down, left and right. So this is my bad for not doing the hand test, but it's all similar in a lot of the characters for threezero, and they just slip in and out really easy. So here we have his repulsor hands without the blast effect, so you can see that silver inlay, and they come in sort of an eased, relaxed pattern like this, and then more of a clawed pattern. So one is for firing, one is for flight, basically. So you can see the variety of the two here. And here we go with the firing hands, getting a little more dynamic pose out of them, crouching here. The difference between the hands, again, is the angle of the wrists. So when you have the firing hands, they have a different sort of sharpness to them. The flight hands get more flat, so you could have that hovering repulsor effect, where the other hands just kind of give you more of a, for firing adjustment, to kind of go right up to the wrist, so you get that sort of parallel with the arm. So it's very subtle, but it's kind of obvious when you put them on what they're designed for. So these have more of a fire effect, and the other ones you'll see in a second get more flat for a hovering effect. So a little more dynamic here, using the stand, using the hover points, using the flame effects. You can see him in this flight mode, and we have those peg holes in the bottom for the feet effects for the flames and the boots, and then of course the wrists, I used a different angle, so you can see this here for the flying effect of the repulsors and the stabilizers. And the stand, like I showed you, you could clip off that bottom portion and stick it in there to get them to have that seamless flight look. So you get a variety of flight poses out of this, or a variety of action poses if you want him doing a kick or something. But it's pretty nice and it's pretty stable. You can see I have them rotating around here, and it's shaking just a little bit, but it's not, folding over and crashing. So it's still pretty stable. Not meant to be spun around while it's displayed like this, but it's holding together either way. And we're end with Colonel Rhodes here, standing tall with that saluting hand. So that works out great. You can, fully articulate that back to a salute to his head. An angle you can't achieve on most plastic characters. They won't have that level of articulation to be able to get the hand to the head like that at that angle. But thanks to those double elbows and that quadruple shoulder articulation, you can easily achieve that, and it looks great if you just want to keep them in this as a static pose. And again, you can do this with the Iron Patriot as well. So that was our look at our War Machine Mark II. One other point of articulation I forgot to point out is the legs. You actually could pull out a little bit to get a little bit more reach on the thigh area. So that way when you move it forward, it doesn't hit into the armor there. And again, you have that upper thigh articulation. So that's how you really get that leg all the way up, is being able to pull it out just a little bit more. So it's an important point of articulation on all the suits that I've seen so far. So the last thing I wanted to do is, I told you I'd take out the Iron Patriot, and we draw a little compare and contrast here onto this guy. And yeah, I mean, you could tell basically it is virtually the same armor. Got the same contours and the same shape here. You see where the arc reactor is. It should be the same, because like I said, even in the Marvel Universe world, it's the same version. It's just a different color scheme. So we have the red, white, and blue of Iron Patriot, or red, white, and silver, and then we have this black and silver look here, but it's the same essential character. And you could feel that the metallic parts on it are in the same places as well. So threezero was really exacting on that, of getting everything to look very, very similar on these two characters, because they have to be. They're the same character, or the same version of the suit. They're just different color schemes. So we have our Iron Patriot, which I still think looks really great as well. And now we have our Mark II armor, which I'm just a fan of this color scheme, so I like this one even more. So he also has his Lieutenant James, Colonel James Rhodes on the side of the armor here, which he had that here as well. So that is consistent. So everything about it is consistent across it, just the new kind of paint scheme on the two. But these are the same figure. Everything on them is the same in terms of the version of the armor. There shouldn't be any differences between these two versions. So they use the same mold, just different paint scheme, which was accurate within the MCU as well. So now you can get your new version of your hero character. And I like how they just have all these fun little details. Like even if the fist is closed, they still have the repulsor, hand repulsor painted properly silver in there. So they didn't miss anything on this. Like you're getting your money's worth on these characters. Like I said, they range from about $80 to $90, depending on which character it is or where you're ordering it from. Of course, we'll have a pre-order link for you guys if you want to order this. He should be out in the next month or two, hopefully. And when he's in stock, we also have our code at Entertainment Earth you guys could always use for 10% off, which isn't bad. And he brings this guy down just a little bit in price. But I think they're worth it for what you're getting for that price point. It's kind of like a mini Hot Toys. You get a lot of detail in these. You get a lot of articulation. You get these great light up features that they sort of have cornered the market on these light features they have in all their characters, whether it be their Transformers, DLX, or the Marvel line or the Ultraman line. They do a really good job with these, keeping them very tiny and unobtrusive to the character, but still have this great feature. So yeah, that's worth checking out. Getting one of these if you haven't gotten one of these. Check out our other reviews of the other armors we did to show you what's going on with those. There's some really great designs as well. And they have a bunch coming up. There's like I said, an Iron Spider. There is a Black Panther, and I believe there is a Iron Man Mark II, which I'm really excited about because it's that all silver look before he started doing the paint schemes on him. So we're going to see that all silver look. Maybe we'll get an Iron Man Mark I. That's going to be a really interesting one. But yeah, this is our latest one coming out. This is the, I think, 8th one in the line so far. This line is definitely expanding. I don't know if we're going to be at house party threshold, but we are getting there. So we'll be adding a bunch to the set this year with this guy and then the Mark II, and maybe there's more coming out. So just keep checking back for more threezero news. Check back for more coverage of these excellent Marvel products. If you like this guy, pick him up. We have a link. You could get him other places as well, but we'll have the best price outlined for you guys, of course. So that's it for now. Tune back. We have another new release this week we want to show you guys from NECA, so you can check that one out on Thursday. So that's all for now. As always, like, subscribe, and follow for more content. We'll have many surprises coming up. I don't want to spoil anything, but maybe an adventurer from the past who's returning in a big way will be making a feature here soon. So check back for that, and until then, we will see you guys next time.